I'm Megan. Thank you for joining me on my channel. If you're watching this Saturday morning, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. This is my holiday edition where we're going to do some merry movement, which will be some somatic movement all on the floor, very accessible, slow, and gentle, into happy holds. So the happy holds will be restorative postures, so postures where we're still at the end of that movement, enjoying that stillness and that gentle stretching. So if you want to, please feel free to grab some pillows, blankets. If you have an extra rolled up yoga mat, that can come in handy. If you've got traditional props like bolsters and blocks, you can also grab those. But thanks for joining me. Be sure to subscribe, a free Christmas present to yourself, to get all of my notifications if you just ring that little bell. But we're going to start down on our back for a moment, just finding ourselves what I like to call landing and locating. Just let your back come down, hug your knees into your chest. Make some little circles with your knees. So we start with that merry movement. And the postures I've chosen today are a bit more invigorating. So there will be that stillness, but it's meant to kind of vitalize us. So rolling your legs around, feeling your back and spine. And then come to a still point. Either knees bent, or if you'd like to extend your legs, feel free to do that. And think of all the parts of your body that are touching the earth. And just like we sit in a chair, think of the earth like a chair and let your body just sink into the earth chair. Any parts of your body that are touching the ground. It may be a lovely day for intention for you, and if that's the case, you can place your hands anywhere where you want to hold your awareness for your intention, your heart, your brow, maybe down in your belly. Set an intention for your practice. And we're going to get started. So as I mentioned, invigorating first, I'm going to roll over onto my belly. And you can do the same. Come down onto your belly, shake your body out again so the front side now can land in your earth chair. And then cross opposite hand to elbow and slightly slide your elbows in towards your torso or like they're coming towards your armpits. And we're just going to rest the forehead on one of your arm bones. So you should feel like you just have a little bit of a light lift in the chest. You might feel a slight stretch in the belly. Anytime we're stretching the front side, that's good for digestion as well, which we might be needing over the holiday season. More importantly, just feel into your body. Feel free to jelly roll the legs if there's any discomfort in the legs or the hips. And see if you can direct your breath all the way from the lower abdomen and up through the collarbones. So we now use the earth to connect more deeply to our breath. Feel the movement of your breath in relationship to the earth underneath it. That slight lifting as you breathe in, and that settling in as you breathe out. We want to familiarize ourselves with the breath because we're going to be using the breath to do a gentle back bend. So when you're ready to change your arm position, just take your arms somewhere out to your sides, like a cactus position. You might like them closer to your sides or further away. I sort of like this little bit of a L shape with my elbows slightly higher than the shoulders, but see where your shoulders are comfortable, roll them out. You can rest on either your chin or your forehead. And think of the levity of that inhalation. And next time you take a breath in, allow that breath in to initiate a forward and upward movement. And as you breathe out, turn your head to one side, whichever cheek you want to rest on first. And come all the way down, back to that earth chair. And then we'll just be repeating that pattern to the pace of your own breath. Breathe in, lifting up and forward, so a gentle back bend. Breathing out, turning on to one cheek, and pausing to feel the cheek soften into the ground, the belly relax, the backs of the thighs and the buttocks muscles. Inhalation, you might feel the activation of the muscles in your back line, the hamstrings, the glutes in your butt. And exhaling, we release it all as we come down. So take a few in your time, in your pace. The longer the breath, the slower you can make the movement. You can also increase the movement time by finding the pause. So give yourself a little more time in the movement. The pause at the top of the inhale, where you'll be in the back bend. And then the peaceful pause at the bottom of the exhale, where your whole body is relaxed into the earth again, into the space of grace. Something you want to be cautious of is that the bend is truly a back bend, so sometimes what happens is we just lift our head. So if you can keep your neck in more of a neutral position, look down at the floor in front of you, then we find we'll lift the chest as well. And this checking to see that everything is releasing, relaxing when you come back down. And we're going to add a little bit of leg in here today. So once we've found the movement with the upper body, next time you inhale up, lift your left leg. So reach with the toes. You'll feel a little more action in the back of the left thigh and buttocks. And then as you come down, let the leg come down and turn your head towards your right shoulder. So opposite of the leg that was lifting. And then we go the other way. Inhale, head up, right leg. Bring the head through the center. Reach through the right toes. Exhale, right cheek comes down, right leg comes down. And alternating sides. Inhale, lifting up through the chest, lifting up through the left leg. Feel all that action in the back of the left leg. Exhaling, down onto the left cheek. Shake out that left leg if there's still any tension in it. Time for the right leg. Inhale up and reach. Watch that you're not bending your knees, so there's a reaching the crown of the head forward and the toes back, lengthening out as you lift. And exhaling. Complete relaxation. Explore a few more of these. Notice that invigorating breath, filling your chest on the way up and in, and then that relaxation on the way down. And great for digestion here. And take your last round. And we'll come down. So we're going to take this movement of a back bend into a restorative posture, which just means we're going to bring some support in. So if for any reason you want to do more of a yin, you could take your arms and be like this and hold yourself, or you could even come back to that first position of opposite hand to elbow resting your forehead. That might be a nice spot for you. What I like to do is bring some extra support underneath my front body. So bring the earth to my body because we've got this gap between the chest and the floor. So you can take a blanket in. I happen to have a bolster here, a pillow, anything you want. And find the height that you're comfortable in the back bend. So it might be something like this. Nothing fancy. You can rest your head on your arms. If you like to be a little bit higher, that's when I go for the bolster. I happen to have a bolster and blocks, so I'll show you if you've got all those goodies at home. My delectable way to do this back bend would be to put 2 blocks, one on the lowest setting, the second one on the medium setting, down, and then the bolster on top of it. Then I can just lay the front of my pelvis on that bolster. So watching that the low back is long. It's nice to have that pelvic support. I'm just letting the arms relax. So we'll be here for about 2 minutes. Notice how you can sense that opening of space of the front body, But there's no need to engage or contract the muscles in the back body because the weight of your body is fully supported. You can feel into your bones. That may encourage your muscles to relax. You've got a pet here like I do. Always good to pet your animals. Very therapeutic for both of you. Right, Bodhi? See if you can go back into your breath. Just breathing all the way from the front of the abdomen to the collarbones, filling the front body. And we should feel like there's an equal compression in the back. So sometimes there's too much compression in the low back, and if that's the case, that's when you want to come out. So if I'm feeling like my low back is really pinchy here, then another thing to do is, especially if you're supporting yourself here, these are just some thoughts, what you can do is put a blanket underneath the pelvis, and that will ramp the pelvis so it's not as arched in the low back. So this is another option. But let's take this last minute in complete quiet and just support yourself in this posture of opening the front body, stretching your vital organs. How does it feel to connect with nothing but the sensations in your body? Maybe the sound of your own breath or the temperature of your breath on your nose. These inward practices of embodiment that we give ourselves aren't always easy. So be loving and kind, whatever comes up. Taking your last few rounds of breath. And then to come out of the posture, you can use your arms. A counter pose would be coming back into your child's pose. If you just want to be still, you could do that and press back into your child's pose. I'm going to go back into Mary movement. So if you want to join me, we could come to all fours and do our arch and curl. So we inhale into our arch and exhale into the curl. So letting the spine go back and forth from the back bend on the inhale to the curling, or what we call forward folding in yoga, on the exhale. That fluid movement of the spine. If you want a little more stretching, inhale into the arch and exhale as you curl, draw your hips back towards your heels, stretching your arms, a little more stretch for the low back. Inhale, undulating forward, and exhale, pushing back. All right. We're going to switch positions and we're going to go into a side lying posture. So let's go on to the left side first. You may want a pillow or a blanket or something underneath your head. And if so, make sure that whatever's underneath you is extended towards the back of your head, because we're going to be rolling our head. So we're on the left side. The other thing you might want to consider is a pillow or something between your knees. If that's nice for you, you can put something between your knees, maybe not in the movement, but for certain when we go to do our hold. And you're going to stack your knees one on top of another. Just let your left side of your body settle into the ground. So land into that earth chair first. Take your right hand to your ribs. See if you can direct your breath into your right ribs, into your right lung. Feel now that levity, that lifting through the right side as you breathe in. And just that gentle compression towards the center of the spine as you breathe out. Might even feel the sliding of the muscles between your ribs, those intercostal muscles. And once we've landed, we'll go into a twisting movement. So you're going to take your palms together. Next time you take your breath in, begin to roll the right shoulder blade and arm towards the floor behind you. So you're going to just let that right arm slide. Think of it as a torso movement. The arm is relaxed. So we're creating a rotation or a twist. And as you exhale, roll back. So if you're not using something underneath your head and you notice that you're lifting your head, then put something underneath it, because you want to feel the base of your skull rolling through the ground. There's no need to lift the weight of the head, whether you use something underneath it or not. So inhale, rotate right ribs and shoulder towards the ground. Exhale, roll back, stack the right ribs and shoulder on top of the left side. Inhale into the rotation. Exhale, come back into that side lying pose. And it's really easy to do this from your arm, but think of it as a torso rotation if you can. Let the arm stay relaxed, and you may even get to the point where the right elbow finds the ground. Let your head turn and follow your shoulder. You can roll all the way through to the front of the forehead at the bottom of the exhale. Notice yourself rolling through the side of the right ear, the base of the skull, and then all the way towards the opposite ear. The head is heavy. Just rolling in and out of the twist. So I enjoy combining the somatics with the hold, because the somatics is the experience of letting our body open up and talk to us, communicate, and tell us what we want. In other words, how far into the rotation is enough for you, and how far is too much? So you can take it all the way to your end point of rotation. How does that feel? Is it too much pulling? And then go a little softer. Stop before that end point. So you're discovering where you want to ultimately take your hold. Just rotating from the head and the shoulders. Take one or two more. You can lead with your breath, filling up the right lung. Come out as the right lung empties. And then find that space in the rotation that you just want to hang out with yourself. Right hand can stay on the rib cage, particularly if you find your right elbow is not touching the ground. You could put a block or something underneath it. Otherwise, just keep your hand on your rib cage. If you really get that right shoulder blade down, you're welcome to extend your right arm long. Find where your head and neck want to be. And if you don't have the pillow between your legs, this is a nice time to do that, perhaps. And we're into the happy hold. Feeling the rotation through the spine. Rotation is always interesting, because for some people you may feel it more in the shoulders or even the neck, or it may be all the way down in the low waist or the hip. Just acknowledging where your body's communicating from. Breath in continues to send that vitalizing energy into the right lung. The breath out is the invitation to release into the earth. Notice if there's any holding patterns in your body. Is there anywhere you're trying to protect yourself from touching the ground more or from letting go? So the power of gravity to take you deeper into the posture. Gravity would be the opposite of doing or trying. Releasing the weight of the bones. Always the breath to follow if your mind wanders off. See if you can let the breath out, relax both shoulder blades closer to the earth. Feel the weight of the back body. Let the breath in, lift the ribs, stretch out the right side from the hip to the armpit. And enjoy this position in silence. Take your last few breaths. What did it feel like when you started the pose? Have any sensations stayed the same? Have they moved? Are they stronger or duller? When you're ready to come out, if your right arm's extended, place it back on your body. Slowly roll back onto your left side. Pausing there, there's an opportunity to take just a little bit of mirror movement. You could roll your right shoulder in circles. Sometimes that feels really good on the shoulder. You could also think of putting a little handle on your right hip and do hip circles, circling the right hip around. So while we're on the side body, we're going to take another movement and then hold. And I'm going to bring my blanket back in underneath my head for a moment. So staying on the left side. If you do have a pillow or something between your knees, please remove that. We're going to be extending the legs a little bit longer, although you want to keep the left leg bent. If you straighten it too much, you're going to feel like you're going to tip, and you want to keep the right hip basically stacked on top of the left hip, not letting it fall forward or back. So we're going to lengthen again through the right side, but this time without the rotation. So breathe into your right lung. You should be experts at that now, the bigger lung. And now as you breathe into your right lung, reach your right arm overhead and right leg forward. So in opposite directions, and think of lifting the right rib cage up. You'll feel the left rib cage shorten and lift as well. And as you breathe out, take the arm and leg down. Let it relax. So inhale, reaching the right side, hand and arm away from one another. And exhale, let it rest. So we're lengthening that right side. It may feel different. You can take your right arm and sweep it up over your head and over your ear, or you can take it in front of you and do more of like a sweep along the floor. So I tend to do both. You get a little bit different stretch in the shoulder girdle if you come forward and up versus overhead and up. So try both. Play, be playful, right? That's what keeps us coming back to these practices, playfulness and joy. Additionally, if you want to stretch out the front of the thigh a little bit more, and again, we're focusing on invigorating, which is stretching the front side. You get the thigh, your hip, the front of your hip, a little deeper stretch by not just reaching forward, but reach that right leg back behind you. Imagine if you're taking a step, your right leg would be the back leg, and you're stretching that
hip flexor in the right leg. And exhale. Let the right leg just come crashing back down and relax it. Inhaling into your stretch. You can even hold the top there for a few breaths. And exhaling, full release. And let your right ribs lift. Feel your left waist shorten as the right waist lengthens. And then letting it go. Feel free to do a few more movements, as long as they're merry. And if they're not merry, maybe they're just my other favorite word, interesting. All right, so we're going to get ready to set this one up as our hold. So notice when you're doing your stretch, there was a lifting of the left waist. And you might even take your hand underneath there, your right hand, and notice where that lifting area is. Because that's where we're going to put the support, is wherever your left waist was lifting. And the support may be just a blanket, or a pillow works too. It's all going to depend on how high you want to be lifted. So I sort of double up my blanket, and I put it right between my hip and my ribs, coming down. And then I can rest my head even on my left arm, or you can put a pillow underneath it. So you just want to get that little lift. So this is a fairly low lift, and that might be more than enough. If you want a little bit more, again, the bolster. So the other thing you look at is the fabric and the density of what you're using. So blankets and pillows are more forgiving. Bolsters don't have much give. So sometimes the best combination for me is a blanket and a bolster. I like to be really high in this one. But the other thing that works really well is that rolled up yoga mat. You could put that right there too. So play around for just a moment, because we'll be here long enough to make it worth your while, and find what you want underneath that side. I used to enjoy teaching this one in restorative yoga. And then once you found how much you want underneath your left side to create, so we're creating a side bend, right? A lateral bend. Your right arm could just stay there. Some people like to take the right arm overhead to get more of a stretch. If you find that the right arm reaching finds the dog, that's good. No, if it's too much pulling, what can sometimes be helpful is to put a block or blanket, something between the hands. So I happen to have a block, but something between the hands here. Maybe a dog. I'm going for the dog. And legs can just stay stacked, be a little bit softer through your thighs and your right hip. If you want to go for a deeper stretch through your right hip, then feel free to extend that right leg back behind you, or even just extend it long. So we take like the first minute to find the posture. Really got to set ourselves up for success. That's the happy part of the hold. And then once we're there, we try to remain still and awake and alert. Use your breath as a tool, breathing into the right side, creating more space as you breathe in. Breathing out, let that left side settle into the earth. And always doing those body scans to notice, is there any place you're holding your muscles in a pattern of tension or tightness? And if so, the first part is to notice that. That's most of the work, is just in the noticing. And then the second part is breathe out and just give it permission or invite it to relax, to release. The reminder that we're energy and awareness, and wherever your awareness goes, your energy flows. And your body wants to please you. It listens. You have to direct it into what you want. And just feeling that long right side, we'll take this last minute in silence. image or experience your right side all the way from the tips of the toes to the tips of the fingers. Feel the wholeness of your right side. From the torso where you're breathing and still moving just from your breath, through the leg and the arm, creating spaciousness and flow. And when you're ready to come out, you can bring your right leg towards the center of the body, bring your right arm back down. Use your hands and arms to slowly walk yourself up, removing any sort of supports that you had underneath you. We're going to go back onto our back for just a moment. In the very beginning, we started on our back, if you recall. We just hugged our knees into our chest and rolled a little bit. If that feels good, invite yourself to do that again, just to let your backside land. We'll land and locate again. And then either knees bent, or if it's available to you, take your legs long, arms to your sides, and we'll take just 10 breaths of what I call the magic moment in between the two sides. Just notice the two sides of your body. This is when we go deep into that space of soma, that space of knowing ourselves from the inside out. Can you sense a difference between the right and the left? Is one side longer, shorter, heavier, lighter? Is there just more of a sense of clarity of the space of the right side versus the left? We call the body mapping. Can your brain see both sides? Or what's not on the map? Just being in this space of wonder and gratitude, learning to read the subtle sensations within our body. And then when you're ready to come out, you can take your hands back to your belly, bend your knees if your legs are straight. You can just roll over onto your right side. I'm going to switch, so I'm facing you, but we're going to be switching sides. So we start with the rotation first. You may find you want the same setup as you had when you were on your left side. Perhaps you had a pillow or a blanket underneath your head. That option was there to bring a pillow or a blanket, something between your knees. So the knees are bent, and just stacking the top knee on top of the bottom knee. And coming down onto your right side, finding a good position for the right arm. Letting the head relax. Land and locate in your left side through your breath. Can you let your breath do a little dance into your left lung? And notice the way it just very spontaneously lifts and lengthens the spaciousness of your breath in. And as you breathe out, let the right side land. Let it just sink into the earth chair. And we'll begin to create that rotation. So you can start with your palms together. Let your left arm be completely relaxed. Think of your left shoulder blade and your collarbone as driving this movement. So we move from the torso. Take a nice big full breath into your left lung. As the lung rises and expands, begin to roll to the left, dropping that left shoulder blade and collarbone all the way over. As you breathe in, roll back. And check once again that you're not attempting to lift up your head. The head is supported by the ground or your pillow. We inhale into the rotation and exhale out. So you might even feel the way you're rolling around the circumference of your skull. Inhale into the rotation And exhale out. Just letting that left arm be heavy and moving from your trunk. You might recall when you did the first side, maybe there was more pulling or tightness. Usually we feel tightness like in the skin as pulling, or even all the way down to the muscles, the fascial tissue. And you may have felt it in the hip more or in the shoulder. And is it the same in this side, or are those tight places in a different space? Again, it's just about finding them so that we can release them. Inhaling into the rotation. And exhaling back. As you go deeper, you may find your left elbow touches the ground, the shoulder blade even. It's pretty typical for most people to have more mobility rotating in one direction than the other. So this is my side of freedom. How about you? Other side was my tight side. Take a few more. And you're just finding that place, that good space where you're feeling a stretch. So we say sensation without strain. Little activity without dullness. And then find that area. If your left elbow is not touching the ground, you can put something underneath it to lift it up a little bit. You might also keep your left hand on your ribs. If the left shoulder blade is touching the ground, then feel free to extend the left arm to get a little more stretch through the pectoral area, wherever your head wants to land. If you don't have the pillow between your knees, this can be a good time to do that. Here is the hold, the space of stillness. And trying to find that space of grace, which is just the idea that each of us has a place that the body wants to go that is most natural, instinctual, and comfortable. We don't need to guide it there. We find it typically by getting out of our own way. Using the breath to expand and stretch as you breathe in, and to release and relax as you breathe out. Notice the rotation through your waist. Even think of your spine, all the little muscles along your spine. Breathing out, you can relax the weight of the shoulder blades into the ground. Is there anything you can say to yourself that takes you deeper into a space of comfort and acceptance, while still vitalizing the left side of your body, particularly the left lung? Enjoying the silence. And within that silence, staying awake and alert to any sensations that present themselves. Taking your last few breaths. And we say that twists are very good for digestion too. So a good practice is a good practice for our holiday eating, perhaps. You can think about your organs, and we don't change the volume of the organs, but we certainly change the shape when we take our torso in different positions. So you can slide your left hand back to your body, slowly roll out of your rotation when you're ready. Back onto the right side, stacking left hip on top of the right, left shoulder on top of the right. Last time I gave you the option of just a little bit of that mirror movement, maybe rolling your left shoulder in circles. Of course, there's 2 directions to explore. And if it's sticky, keep going with the shoulder. If you want to move down to your hip, that imaginary handle on your hip, and just rolling your left hip in circles. I have a whole video about this too, about rolling the hips and the shoulders. You can do both at the same time. You're just stirring your shoulders and your hips. Lovely. And then relax, and we're going to go into the second movement and hold for our left side. So this is more of a lateral bend or a side bend versus a twist. You can keep something under your head if you'd like, but remove anything from underneath your knees. The right leg will get extended, but just extended enough to where you can feel like you're not tipping over. You can keep your left hip stacked on top of your right. And then take the left leg long. For me, that's into the dog. Let's see how that works. Feel your left arm and just sense the space all the way from the left toes to the fingers. And on a breath in, think of filling and lifting the left lung up towards the sky. And as you breathe out, drop it back down. And notice how the right side responds. Breathing into the left lung and lifting it, the right side, the right waist will shorten. And then releasing. So then adding that stretching. Inhale, reach the left arm and left leg away from one another. So it's like your armpit and your hip are a piece of taffy going in opposite directions. And then exhale, just let it gently collapse, slowly collapse into a space of relaxation. Inhaling and reaching. You might start with the overhead reach and full release, or you can do the sweeping the arm in front release. Just a little bit different for the muscles of the shoulder girdle, a little different stretch. And then again, if you want to stretch the top of the left thigh, so those hip flexors, and we do tend to sit a lot this time of year, so it's good to do that. Instead of just reaching long with the left leg, take it behind you a little bit without bending the knee. Lengthen. Whole left side, reaching arm. It's almost like you're reaching in a cross diagonal pattern. Right hand to the back right corner. Left hand to the back left corner, and left foot to the front left corner. Did I get that right? Hand, front right, leg, back left. Whatever works for you to build that sense of space through your left side. Remembering you can initiate from your breath. Exploring, making your left side longer, more awake, revitalize, make space for whatever's next. We have our stomach in this side, our lovely spleen. Taking a few more in motion. And again, it's the exploration of finding your end range of motion, but then also finding the space where you're going to ultimately want to stop and rest and release. And that may be before that end range of motion, that more comfortable space. So typically in restorative postures, we stop about anywhere from 50 to 25% before we get to that end range of motion, just because we want more comfort. And then last stretch. And then we're going to bring in those props to support the body. So notice once again, on the breath in how your right waist was lifting, and just feel where is that, because that's where you're going to want the support.
The options for support were a rolled up mat underneath that waist area, a blanket, a pillow, so you could double it up, and it depends, how wide do you want it. I go for a little bit higher lateral bend. I like doing this one. I really like opening my sides up, and I do it quite often. So taking the bolster, which is fairly dense, not a lot of give to it, so I put a blanket on top of it to raise it up more, and also to give it a little more fluff, right? We like fluff over the holidays. And then placing that, so not all the way under the armpit, but it's kind of between the waist and the armpit. Right rib cage should be resting. Let that right arm flop down. If your head's falling too much, then please support your head. So pillow might come in underneath the head here. Yeah. Everybody's got to find their personal space. And left arm can stay here, or you can reach it overhead. If there's too much pulling in the shoulder, sometimes it's as simple as putting a block or a pillow, I have to watch my candle here, between the hands. So that's an option for you. And your hips could stay stacked, just letting the knees fall in, or if you want a little bit more stretch through the left hip and waist, low waist, reach that left leg out and perhaps even be back a little bit behind you, feeling the stretch through the front of the thigh. But the big toe side of the foot is still supported by the floor. Taking those extra few breaths to shimmy or readjust anything physically to find where you really want to hang out. That's the key. You can't fool yourself. It either feels good and you can relax into it, or your body is tightening to protect you, saying, nope, that's not the spot. And sometimes it's just a matter of putting something underneath a joint or a bone to bring the floor to the body to support it. So even underneath that inner left knee, perhaps. And then we rest. We land and we locate, feeling this lovely left side opening up. The length all the way from the toes to the fingers. That availability to breathe into your left lung. I like to visualize my muscles between my ribs sliding on each other. We have what we call the internal and external intercostal muscles. And it's just a beautiful way that our body naturally slides and glides on itself, creating spaciousness and freedom. In this case, freedom to allow the lung to move, bringing the air in and gently squeezing the air out. The miracles that happen all the time within our bodies that we are not even aware of, don't need to be. But when we do find them, hopefully they make us merry and happy. Take these last moments in silence, just feeling yourself through your left side. Appreciate the spaciousness in the left waist, feeling the length of the left leg reaching out from the torso,
The left arm reaching out. Taking a few more vitalizing breaths into the left side, while just allowing the right side to feel the support of the earth and your props. And then coming out, you can slide your arm down if it's overhead, slide your leg back in. Pause just for a moment if your arm and leg were long, and then using the strength of the arms to slowly, very slowly, lift yourself up. Just enough that you can get those supports out of there. And we'll return to our back side. Finishing where we began, bringing the knees into the chest. You might roll your pelvis on the ground. You might even rock your shoulders now side to side. So as if you could just give your body a little bit of a massage, rocking back and forth. If any of you out there are young enough to remember Weeble Wobbles, that might have been a Christmas present for you some year. That's what I do here, is I think of myself like a Weeble Wobble. They wobble, but they don't fall down. It's a great toy. And then come back into that space of stillness. We'll take a moment to just land and locate after the practice. Knees can be bent if that's more comfortable, or take them long. I've got fur at my feet. It's lovely. And notice the two sides of your body again. Back into that magic space of feeling yourself as a soma, feeling the life of your body from the inside. All those channels of movement, even when you feel still. Your blood's pumping, your oxygen coming in and out, the carbon dioxide coming out. All the movement, the water within our body, the heart pumping. That is the merry and the happy that's always going on inside of us. And just letting your breath dance in your body. Feeling the weight of the bones as they receive the muscles. And the way the bones are supported by the earth. See if you can pick a spot in your body. It could be a physical spot, an organ, so maybe a joint even, anything. And for me, I like to place my hands in that space. It's going to be my heart center, but wherever yours is today, a space that you think of that as merry and happy. Might even be just visualizing one cell in your body. Is there a space in you right now that feels merry and happy? You can even repeat those words to yourself, visualizing that space, that home for your awareness. You could turn it into an I am statement. I am merry and happy. Of all the times this month you'll say things like Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's. Offer that same sentiment to yourself right now, to that space in your body. Offer that you be merry and happy. And we know that there's never any shortage of the power of the mind and the heart when they work together. So feel that sense of merry and happy glowing and filling your body, even to the point of overflowing beyond your body. Maybe sending it to your loved ones that you'll be with. Those blessings of merry and happy flowing beyond your body and out into the world. To our pets that bring us so much pleasure. And then to revitalize, let's start to wake up. Take a big breath in through your nose and sigh out your mouth. See if you want to do that with a little bit of a stretch back to that merry movement. Inhale, full body yawn, stretch your body out long through your toes and your fingers. Breathe out through your mouth, sigh, fall into that earth chair. Feel free to do that a few more times if you'd like, or just stay in this position of stillness. Be merry, be happy. Thank you for joining me for this practice, especially to my patrons who have supported me throughout the year and keep my channel going. I always appreciate that, and your individual donations. Peace, joy, love, and light.